Hi, I'm Brad, and I'd like to welcome you to the Caught Up channel. If you like this channel, would you please subscribe to it and like it, and then pass it on to your friends so that more people can hear what I'd like to share with you today. So I have a few articles that I want to bring to your attention. They're not very I don't know how to put it. They're very difficult articles to share because of some difficult themes in these articles. But I want to share them because it's important to know what's going on in the world and how we are slowly, I'd say how we are quickly gaining speed toward the return of Jesus Christ. The first article that I want to share with you is about digital currency. I shared that in the past. And I just want to bring this to your attention again. This is a new article. This came out just a few days ago. And it came out Worthy News out of England. And it says that the Bank of England has launched a consultation on the creation of a digital British currency that the London support reports, or the London Standard reports. It goes on to say the users would have the same level of privacy as they do with a regular bank account. Neither the government nor the bank would have access to personal data. I would say wink, wink to that, right? Anyway, how is this working out? Because remember, about a month ago when I shared with this, our country, our president, in fact, back on March 9th, he signed that executive order to look into the central bank currency, the central digital or the central bank digital currency. And I also gave you a little quick definition between that and cryptocurrencies because there is a difference. Really, just the bottom line is this, that the central bank digital currency will have more control. They'll have control of where this money is going, and they're going to know where it's going to go because it all operates under what's called the blockchain technology. And it's going to operate on a centralized network. So just think that no privacy. Everything you spend, everything your money, wherever your money goes, will be tracked, and there's just no way around it. You're not going to be able to buy or sell without this. Cryptocurrency, on the other hand, they're stored on a decentralized blockchain network, and there's more privacy that way, and the government doesn't really know where that money is going or how it's being spent. So as you can see, the government doesn't want that, and so they put this back in March 9th, the President Biden put this into motion for the banks and the government agencies actually started looking at it. And some of the major banks have been, and they've been actively looking at it. And some of those banks are Citibank, Wells Fargo Bank, MasterCard. They're just some of the few that have launched a pilot program to see how this is going to work. Well, we see it's starting worldwide. This is not just in America. For instance, here's an article. Nigeria actually has implemented this, and it's really I guess it says here they're the only one largest economy that has actually fully launched a CBDC, Nigeria, at this point, and it's been disastrous. They said it's been disastrous. Let me just read some of this. This was launched in October of 2021. It says to try to salvage is monetary experiment and essentially, listen to these words, essentially force people to use a digital means of payment. Preferably, it's called the Naira. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Nigeria's government launched an all-out assault on cash in December. So taking a leaf out of India's book, the government began issuing redesigned high-value notes from mid-December and gave residents until the end of January to turn in their old ones. Goes on to say that according to the Nigerian Central Bank and government, the demonetization campaign is intended to mop up excess cash equity, stay ahead of counterfeiters, and take greater control of Nigeria's money in circulation, more than 85% of which is currently outside the vaults of the country's banking system. And it says this has resulted in just a total chaos. It goes on and says the result of this is limited lines in the ATMs. People are lining up to get cash. Commuters in the capital and beyond have been left stranded, no cash to pay for transportation back home. Small businesses, which represent the lion's share of the economy and predominantly rely on cash payments, have had to shut down as their customers have no money to pay. Well, anyway, all the way through this article, in the very end, I thought this is very interesting, very, to me, eye-opening. It says this: but even as the Nigerians' lives and businesses have been plunged into chaos, the government, again, the government, right? Not the people. The government and central bank see it as a small price that is well worth paying. Okay. Anyway, it says that 80% of the 7.2 billion previously held in private hands has been deposited with financial institutions, which he labels a success. And then this finance minister goes on to saying, the only sore point is the pain it has caused this central CDBC that they've launched. It's caused its citizens. Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah, the only pain is, it's just, this is the sore point is people can't get money. They're lining up at ATMs. Their business is shutting down. It's just a small pain that these people have to put up with. Well, that's the CBC. London is starting that. America is looking into that. Keep your eyes on that, guys, because that's where we're heading for that. And I wouldn't doubt if you might even see it this year, because I know that that's been a strong push for that. The government wants control of that. Okay, another article here. Have you read this one? The Department of Justice and the FBI, they're targeting Catholics as violent extremists under the scrutiny by the state's attorney generals, and they say that bigotry is festering. The Virginia Attorney General, Jason Miyares, I guess, and 19 GOP state attorney generals are demanding answers from the FBI and Justice Department and threatening legal action after a leaked internal FBI memo revealed that the agency had efforts underway to identify and treat Catholics as potential terrorists. All right, well, I'm just reading this article, guys. And let me just continue on here. It says that memo, according to the AGs, identifies radical traditionalist Catholics as potential racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists. And then it says the memorandum deploys, quote, alarmingly detailed theological distinctions to distinguish between the Catholics whom the FBI deems acceptable and those it does not. So my question is, how do they make this distinction? I would think that would be your question too. How do they make this distinction? And who's making this distinction? Among those beliefs which distinguish the bad Catholics from the good ones are a preference for the, quote, the traditional Latin Mass and pre-Vatican II teachings, and the adherence to traditional Catholic teachings on sex and marriage, which the memorandum glibly describes as anti-LGBTQ. Well, there it is, right? There it is. If you have any thoughts on that, or if you have any views on that, and if it's not their views, you're a terrorist. Anyway, this person writes, he says, the memorandum proposes recruiting Catholics to enter a sacred house of worship, talk to their fellow Catholics, and report those conversations back to the FBI so that the federal government can keep tabs on the bad Catholics. Wow. Did you read that? Did you hear that? Hey, Joe Blow, I want you to go to this church and I want you to sit in here and you talk to these parishioners. And man, if you hear something, you come back and you report to us, because those are bad people and those are extremists. That is from the FBI, a memo that came out from the FBI. Now, of course, it's been kind of shelved right now, like, oh, I don't know where we got that, of course. But again, what is bad? What is their definition? And where have we seen this before? Where have we seen this before? Well, back in World War II, the Christians living in Germany in that time, they were actually persuaded by a statement on, quote, positive Christianity. they welcome the Christians back then. Believe it or not, this is most Christians in Germany. They welcomed the rise of Nazism in 1933. And part of that is because of this statement, the Nazi party platform that they adhere to. And this platform, the statement said this, quote, "We demand the freedom of all religious confessions in the state, insofar as they do not jeopardize the state's existence or conflict with the manners and moral sentiments of the Germanic race. The party, as such, upholds the point of view of a positive Christianity without trying itself confessionally to any one confession. It combats the Jewish materialistic spirit at home and abroad, and it's convinced that a permanent recovery of our people can only be achieved from within on the basis of the common good before the individual good." Some of the key words of that. Key words: jeopardize the state's existence, conflict with moral sentiments, common good before individual good. What is the common good of our society today? That's the question, isn't it? That's the question. Where are we going? What is the common good of our society today? And who makes those decisions? Well, look at, I say some of these articles, next articles, I think are going to probably answer where we're heading for. Well, did you hear about this one? Driving kids to the vacation Bible school would become a misdemeanor in Nebraska if a recent proposal by Nebraska Senator Megan Hunt passed into law, if it passes into law. Hunt's amendment, AM 74, filed on January 23, defined a religious indoctrination camp as a camp, vacation Bible study, retreat, lock-in, or convention held by a church, youth group, or religious organization for the purpose of indoctrinating children with a specific set of religious beliefs. The amendment specifically targets Christian parents, churches, and faith-based organizations in its sweeping ban on virtually all youth outreach efforts, including communion in some denominations. All right, look that article up and you'll read it. You can see it. That article too, if I recall, as I read that article, I didn't give you the whole thing because I'm just trying to give you just short blurbs of everything here. But that person who sent out the amendment or that law or whatever, what do you call it? That it was the amendment, yeah. Basically said, "Oh no, I didn't really mean that. If it passes, I won't pass it if it goes. If it looks like it's going to pass, I just want to make a point." Okay, that's the people that's in government right now. Well, let's move on here. Okay, the Grammys. Well, I'm sure that's been in your discussion around the family table. The Grammys, of course, fortunately, I didn't see the Grammys. My wife didn't see the Grammys. We saw blurbs of it from Fox News and other people, and so we got in. I thought, well, what happened there? Well, there was a group, and they have a song out. It's called Unholy. That song, it celebrates adultery. And the group was Sam Smith and Kim, I'm going to say Petros or Petras. They won. They won the Grammy Award for Best Pop Dual Group Performance. A song that celebrates adultery. And evidently, their performance that night was strictly satanic. Now, let me read some of this stuff. Shortly after performing at the White House celebration of Biden signing, let me go back here. Smith and this Kim Petras, whose birth name was Tim, before taking hormone injections at age 12 and undergoing gender transition surgery 4 years later, Petras' latest EP is titled Slut Pup or Pop. Smith, who identifies as non-binary, released a viral social media video that doubled as a burlesque performance shortly after performing at the White House celebration of Biden signing, guess what Biden signed? The Disrespect for Marriage Act. Isn't that wonderful? Smith and Petros were introduced by Madonna, who bore an uncanny resemblance to the New York City satanic statue of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. After the segment, host Trevor Noah mocked Christians silly enough to pray for the attendees' souls out of concern the Grammys had celebrated, quote, the actual devil. So they're making fun of you and me and any believer that we would bring this to the attention that this was satanic and very evil. They're mocking us, people. Oh, this is so stupid. Why are these Christians? They think this. Oh my goodness, this is just wonderful stuff. Well, let's move on here. How about this one? There's a satanic temple, and this one is in Boston. It's coming to Boston. Well, they're all over the place, by the way, but this one says a satanic temple is bringing blasphemy and remembrance to Boston for its second annual national conference called the Satan Con from April 28th to the 30th. Let's see here. Last year, the convention featured panels including Satanism and the BIPOC community and abortion as a religious right. All right, a religious right. Where have we gone, guys? That abortion has become a religion, according to the Satanists here. Well, I think some of these articles might make more or bring more clarity to where we're going about that. Idaho, Satanists in Idaho, the group of Satanists has announced plans to hold a public protest against an Idaho bill that would criminalize the chemical castration and bodily mutilation of children and teens in the name of gender affirmation. The Christian Post reports on this. It says that Satanists are planning to hold a protest by the way of a gender affirmation ritual at the Idaho Capitol Building Rotunda on February 13th. Satanic Idaho is promoting the Hail Yourself gender affirmation ritual to remind Idahoans that not everyone uses religion to condemn, but to accept, the group said on social media. According to their website, the Satanic Temple website, gender affirming rituals are intended to dispel any shame or stigma surrounding one's gender identity due to religious discrimination or cultural ignorance. Well, I'm sorry, guys. This is pretty hard stuff, but hang in there with me. How about this one? Satanic Temple, New Mexico has a new scheme to help Planned Parenthood kill more babies. They just launched a new religious medical service arm. Get this word? They keep using this word, religious. This religious medical service arm to begin doing abortions. The Satanic Temple, TST, sees abortion as a religious ritual and compares it to baptism or communion for Christians. Folks, that is from the very pit of hell. That is evil. All right. Well, they mock people. They thumb their noses at us, and they go on. And this here's this Elisa Martinez. She's the founder of the New Mexico Alliance for Life. She tells Life News, quote, their willingness, they're the satanic, these people, their willingness to flaunt the practice of ending innocent human life as a ritualistic sacrifice shows how New Mexico public officials have cooperated with this evil by turning the state into a thriving taxpayer-funded abortion capital of the Southwest and even in America. Yeah, it's out in the open. Let's just celebrate this. Does this remind you of anything? Let me bring this to your attention. In the Old Testament, there is a group of people, the Canaanites, and they served a false god, and this god was called the god of Moloch god. And what was this Moloch god? Well, it was this. In addition to sexual rituals, Moloch worshipped included child sacrifice or passing children through the fire. It is believed that idols of Moloch were giant metal statues of a man with a bull's head. Each image had a hole in the abdomen and possibly outstretched forearms that made a kind of ramp to the hole. A fire was lit in around the statue. Babies were placed in the statue's arms or in the hole. When a couple sacrificed their firstborn, they believed that Moloch would ensure financial prosperity for the family and future children. Moloch, child sacrifice. What is abortion? What is abortion, guys? Abortion is child sacrifice. How do you get around that? Think of where we're going as a nation. It's not good, friends. we're not heading in the right direction, but the Bible talks about that. You should be shocked. Well, how about this? Horrific child abuse, mass. What is this? Oh my goodness, I don't even know how to pronounce this word. It said here. Anyway, it's restriction of trans-identifying patients. It's taking kids and it's doing this medical procedure on them. It's just man, they're taking and they're just taking parts, and they're saying, we will take this away from you. We'll make you a girl if you want to be a girl. We'll make you a boy if you want to be a boy. Mastectomies, I think that's how you say it, mastectomies. Well, anyway, it looks like this. This recent article shared that the rates of the so-called top surgeries, mastectomy on chest reconstruction or trans-identifying patients have soared in recent years, with one medical center performing just 5 on minors in 2013 compared to 70 in 2019. One doctor shared, I can't honestly think of another field where the volume has exploded like that. And then it goes on talking about how much money is being spent on this. And it just says how people are, listen to this one. It says, so a recent study found 86.7% of the parents of gender dysphoric teenagers reported that gender dysphoria coincided with an increase in internet/social media use or the self-identification of a friend of that teen as transgender or both. So parents, my question is, do you know what your kids are watching? Do you know what's out there right now? What's going on? Well, let's see. Finally, let me show you this picture. That's a man with a stomach sticking out. Oh boy. For a couple of years already, biological men cosplaying, it says, or cosplaying as women have been demanding that the medical establishment address the injustice inflicted on them by reality and figure out a way to put wombs in men. Further to that, trans activists have asserted that this is, in fact, a right, and that as such, womb transplants, when that day arrives, should be free. That is funded by you and me, the taxpayer. As insane as it sounds, we might be getting closer to that day. This article is writing. This is by Jonathan Van Maren from Bridgehead. And he says doctors are now saying that it may be soon possible to transplant wombs into biological men, according to the National Post. Whoa. The baby would be delivered by cesarean section. In short, surgeons can play mix and match with body parts. A woman who wants to be a man has her womb removed. That womb can then be put into a man who wants to be a woman. According to a team from Temple University Hospital Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery Program, who noted that womb transplants are close enough to being a reality that it is time to preemptively plan for the challenge that these parents will face. The solution is likely to proceed with degendering parenthood. Who's against families? Who is against a mom and a dad? Satan, the enemy, does not want families. Let's destroy the families. If there's no clear purpose or benefit to designating a parent as a mother or father, the Temple group wrote, then why do we need it at all? The ultimate goal should be to provide a child with unconditional love and care from their guardians, regardless of gender and title. Well, let's see here. I'm almost finished. All this, and this, the article goes on to say, all this should make a sane person recoil in horror, you think? From the wild claim that men have a right to gestate, to the idea that obscene amounts of money and energy should be poured into carving up males and taking wombs from females to launch a vain attempt to gestate a child created in a petri dish. Most of these children, it must be noted, will die during these attempts. Yet one poll indicated that 90% of men identifying as women, 182 of them, said that procuring a uterus would make them happy. and enhance feelings of femininity and alleviate gender dysphoric symptoms. Well, guys, those are my articles. I have plenty more of those. I haven't brought articles the last couple of weeks, but let me just read something about that. In Psalms 139, what does God say about the man, the woman, children? What does the Bible have to say about that? Psalms 139 is very clear. Lord, you have searched and know me. You know when I sit down and when I stand up. You understand my thoughts from far away. You observe my travels and my rest. You are aware of all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know all about it, Lord. You have encircled me. You have placed your hand on me. This is extraordinary knowledge is beyond me. It's lofty. I'm unable to reach it. Where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you're there. If I live on the eastern horizon or settle in the western limits, even there your hand will lead me. Your right hand will hold on to me. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light around me will be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night shines like the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. And here's the two verses I really wanted to highlight. For it was you, that's God, it was you, God, who created my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you, because I have been remarkably and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. And I know this very well. My bones were not hidden from you. When I was made in secret, when I was formed in the depths of the earth, when your eyes saw me, when I was formless, all the days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. Do you see that? Our days, God has, first of all, we're wonderfully made. God, when we are created in the womb, when a man and a woman come together and they create a child, that child is wonderfully and beautifully made and is created in God's image. God has a plan for that child from the very moment of conception all the days of their life. And these Satanists and people who say, oh, body, that's nothing. We can do abortion. It doesn't mean anything. Wrong, guys. God's word is very clear on that. Well, why do we study prophecy? And now I'm going to conclude with this. Because all these things, these are just a few of the articles. There's so much is going on in this world. And what's happening in this world today, guys, and if you're not aware of what's happening in the world, it could be a very scary thing for many people, especially for Christians, because they don't know what's going on. But Jesus said, don't be afraid. You can know these things. I want you to know these things. And when you see these things, lift your eyes up, for your redemption draws nigh. So we're not to be afraid. We're to be aware of these things. Well, anyway, this article is about the abortion and just all the delusion that's going on in the world. Let me just read a few more verses here. It's a spiritual battle. That's what's going on. That's the bottom line here. In Ephesians chapter 6, we read this in verse 10. Finally, be strengthened by the Lord and by his vast strength. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the tactics of the devil. For our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against authorities, against the world powers of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavens. This is why you must take up the full armor of God, so that you may be able to resist in the evil day, and having prepared everything, to take your stand. And then that wonderful chapter goes on to tell us, believers, how we can put on the armor of God to go into this battle, because it is a spiritual battle. All these things you're reading about, all this thing about abortion, all this thing that's going on with the world, this globalization stuff, it's a spiritual battle. We have to understand that, believer. If you don't understand that, it's going to be discouraging. But if you understand that these things have to happen, you can look up and you realize, man, God is going to return. He's returning soon. Anyway, let's see here. I guess that's about it. Just a few more points. Many prophecy teachers say this, and I love this. Things are not falling apart. They are falling in place. And I say amen to that. Because there's so much delusion going on and so much is happening that if you look at that, you go, man, things are falling apart. What's going on here? A man wants to be a woman. They want to put a uterus in a man. And they're taking our cash away, and we're going to go to CBCs and this digital currency, and oh my goodness, the Satan temples are everywhere, and they're worshiping abortion, and on and on and on it goes. And you look at this and you can go, oh my goodness, but Jesus says, don't do that. Don't be afraid. Don't be concerned. Don't be worried. Look to me, Jesus said. I have the answers. He does have the answers. I would just want to know, and I would just want to, I guess, end with this. I believe with all my heart that Jesus is coming back soon. I believe the rapture is going to happen very soon. And the question is, are you ready? I'm not talking about you, believer. I'm not talking to you who believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you made that decision. You are a child of the living God. I'm not talking to you. Right now, I want to talk to those. If you're watching this video and you've never placed your trust in Jesus Christ, why not? Why not? Jesus said he would come back and take all who belong to him in heaven. And we call that the rapture. And I believe it's going to happen any day, the way this world is going. Do you belong to him? You can belong to him. If that's the question, if you want to know how, this is how. You admit that you're a sinner. It's the first thing you got to admit. Oh, man, I believe that I am a sinner, and I've sinned against you, Lord. And what do I do about it? You believe in your heart that Jesus says who he says he is, that I am the Son of God who came to this earth, and I went to the cross to die for you and to die for the world, to take away that sin that's in your life, that sin that separates you from me. And Jesus says, I came because I love you, for God so loved the world. And he did that. He went to the cross and he was buried, and 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead, victorious over death. And what is death? It's that separation, death. There's a spiritual death. There's a physical death. There's a spiritual death. And man, when you belong to Jesus Christ, you are renewed. Your spirit's renewed, and you will go to heaven, and you will live there forever and ever and ever. And I've shared last video, look it up. I talked about what is heaven like. You can have that. Jesus wants you to have that, but you have to ask Jesus to come into your life, to forgive your sins, and to believe that who he is, that he can save you, because he will save you. I hope you make that decision. Time is short, guys. Very short. Anyway, thanks for listening to this video. I know when along, I'm looking at my time here. It's like 32 minutes. It's a little longer than normal. But I want you to share this. Please share this video to anyone, maybe those who are listening and you're a believer. If you know a friend who is not a believer, please share this video with them. I'd appreciate that. Michelle would appreciate that. Anyway, until then, guys, as I always say, I'll see you here, there, or I will see you in the air. God bless.